My girlfriend bragged that I'd never leave because I was too nice, so I left her a note and changed my number before sunrise. A 28-year-old guy. And when I think back to the beginning of my relationship with Lily, everything seemed perfect. We met when I was 23, and from day one, it felt like we'd known each other forever. We connected instantly, like we were two pieces of a puzzle that had finally found their match. Our first few months together were filled with laughter, spontaneous adventures, and those long, late-night talks about the future, the kind that felt so real, like we could truly build a life together. It wasn't just about the big things. It was in the small moments too, the way she always knew how to make me feel better after a tough day, the way her eyes lit up when she'd talk about her dreams, and how she always seemed to believe in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I remember those mornings waking up next to her and feeling like everything in the world made sense. Her touch was comforting, the kind of touch that felt like home. She'd always tell me how lucky she was to have someone who was so sweet and caring. And in those early days, I believed her. I really did. She made me feel like I was her biggest priority, and I was all in. We talked about our future constantly, about getting a place together, about our kids, the family we'd raise. Every word she said only deepened the bond I thought we had. Then, one night, as we were sitting on the couch, sipping wine and joking around like we always did, she casually said, "You're too nice, you know? You're always there for me. It's sweet, but honestly, I don't think you'd ever leave." She laughed, her voice light, as if it was a joke. But there was something about the way she said it that lingered, something that made me pause for a second. I brushed it off. Though after all, who doesn't joke around with the person they love? But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. It started small, the changes. Almost imperceptible at first. The kind of thing you'd brush off if you weren't paying attention. At first, Lily still seemed to be the same affectionate, warm, full of that same energy that made me feel like the luckiest guy alive. But then, slowly, she became more distant. She wasn't as eager to text me throughout the day anymore, and the late-night phone calls, where we used to talk about everything, began to shorten, leaving me with unanswered questions that I couldn't voice without seeming clingy. I remember one night in particular. We were out at dinner with some friends. I caught her laughing a little too loudly at a joke. One of the guys made one of those inside jokes that I wasn't part of. The way she glanced at me after, just for a moment, almost like she was looking to see if I noticed. It wasn't the first time, but something about it hit me differently this time. It felt like she was pulling away, but in a way that was so subtle, I questioned if I was imagining it. Later that night, when we got back to my place, I asked her if everything was okay. "You've seemed a little off lately," I said, trying not to sound accusing, but she just shrugged. "I'm fine, just tired. You know how work is?" I wanted to believe her, I really did. But something inside me kept nudging me to dig deeper. So, I asked again, a little more insistently, "Lily, are you sure? Because it feels like you're pulling away." She smiled and ruffled my hair, something she used to do when she wanted to diffuse the situation. "You're being dramatic," she said, brushing me off with a chuckle. "I'm just busy. You know I love you." I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, but as the days went on, the cracks started to widen. I began to feel like I was trying to hold on to something that she wasn't fully invested in anymore. The feeling didn't fade, it only grew stronger. One evening, when she didn't text me back for hours, I found myself staring at my phone, wondering if I was becoming paranoid. Was I overthinking this? I hated that I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. But the truth was, every time I tried to confront it, I was met with silence or a joke. And as much as I wanted to ignore it deep down, I knew something was shifting between us. The question wasn't if she loved MIT, was whether she still saw a future with me. And the more I thought about it, the more I wondered if she ever had. She had always been so sure of herself, so confident in the way she carried herself. But I was starting to feel ... invisible. It was a rainy Thursday night when I saw it. We were at her apartment, curled up on the couch, watching one of those rom-coms she loved. I'd been trying harder than usual to keep the mood light. I didn't want to confront her. I didn't want to seem like I was pushing her. But my mind had been racing. I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling anymore. She'd been on her phone more than usual, scrolling through texts with an intensity I hadn't seen before. Normally, I wouldn't care. People are entitled to their privacy, right? But something about the way she was holding her phone, the angle, the way her fingers kept scrolling in quick bursts, made me uneasy. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid. But when she suddenly jumped up and went to the kitchen without saying a word, I couldn't help myself. I checked her notifications. I know. It was a violation of her privacy. I don't even know what compelled me to do it. Maybe it was the way she'd been acting, or maybe it was the gut feeling that something was off. But when I glanced at her screen, my heart sank. It wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't some random message or some friend reaching out. No, it was a string of texts from a guy named James. He was one of her old friends, someone she'd known before we met. But it wasn't the content of the messages that shocked MIT, it was the intimacy. The flirting that had been happening under my nose. Can't stop thinking about you. Wish you were here tonight? Stop playing hard to get. You know you want me. I stared at the words, my stomach twisting. My first instinct was to throw the phone, to walk out and confront her. But I froze. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. I thought about how I had been feeling like I was being left out, like something had shifted. Was this the answer? Was this what I had been sensing? She came back into the living room, her face lighting up when she saw me, but I barely registered her smile. My mind was elsewhere, my heart pounding in my chest. Hey, you okay? She asked, sitting down beside me. You look off, Lily, I said, trying to steady my voice, but it came out like a whisper. Who's James? Her smile faltered for a split second. It was almost imperceptible, but I saw it, that brief hesitation. Just an old friend, she said quickly, almost too quickly. Nothing to worry about. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I didn't. Nothing to worry about? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Then why did the text say otherwise? Her face went pale. She didn't even try to hide it. I could see it, her guilt, her shame, the way she suddenly became defensive, like a person caught in a lie they couldn't explain away. You went through my phone? She asked, her voice trembling, but not with apology, more like anger. Like I had crossed some unspoken boundary. Lily, I started, my chest tightening. I don't know what's going on, but I can't keep ignoring this. What is this? She bit her lip, struggling to find the words, but none came. It was in that silence, that thick, suffocating silence, that I realized I already knew the answer. I just didn't want to admit it. The silence between us felt like it was stretching forever. I could hear the rain tapping against the window, soft but insistent, like the way my heart was pounding in my chest. I wanted to scream, to shout, to make her understand the weight of what I had just seen. But instead, all I could do was sit there, feeling numb, like the ground had been pulled out from under me. Lily's eyes darted around, refusing to meet mine, and the more she avoided my gaze, the more the anger bubbled up inside me. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away instinctively. I couldn't touch her right now. I couldn't bring myself to do it. James is just a friend, she said, but there was no conviction in her voice, only the faintest hint of panic. It's nothing, really. Nothing? I repeated, shaking my head. You think I'm stupid? You think I can't see what's right in front of me? She looked down, and for a moment I thought she might finally come clean. But then she stood up suddenly, her hands shaking as she moved toward the door, like she was about to run away from everything, run away from the mess she had made. You don't get it, she said quietly, almost to herself. I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. But I could hear it in her voice. The guilt was there, but so was something else, something darker. Then why did you do it? I shot back, my voice trembling with the effort to keep my cool. Why did you let it get this far? You made me feel like I was your everything, and now I find out I was just another person to keep on the line while you played with someone else. She flinched, but didn't answer. The weight of her silence was more suffocating than any words could have been. It was like I had just been punched in the gut, and the air had been knocked out of me. I don't know what I was expecting, maybe an apology, maybe a tear, some kind of admission. But all I got was this cold, empty stare as she stood there, unable or unwilling to say anything more. "You've been lying to me this whole time," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I was the fool. All along, you were keeping me around because I was convenient. But now that you've got someone else, you think you can just toss me aside? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she closed her eyes tightly, like she was trying to block out what I was saying. "Don't," said, my voice hard now, cutting through the air between us. "Don't apologize. You've already done the damage." I could see it in the truth of who she was. The girl I thought I knew, the one I thought I loved, had never truly been the person she pretended to be. And in that moment, I realized the depth of the betrayal. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. Furious that I had let myself believe in someone who never truly believed in me, and that was when it hit me. I had been the one in the dark all along, the one who trusted, the one who gave everything. And she had been living a lie. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not anymore. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I was going to make sure she knew what it felt like to be the one left behind. I stood up, walking toward the door without looking back at her. She didn't stop me. She didn't even try. "I'm done," I said. It's barely above a whisper. And then I left. I didn't hear from Lily for the next couple of days. At first I thought I wanted it that way. Silence, distance it, was exactly what I needed to clear my head, to untangle the mess that was left behind. But then, on the third day, I got the message. It was short, simple, and yet it managed to dig under my skin in a way that I couldn't ignore. "Can we talk? I'm really sorry. Please let me explain." I stared at the message for what felt like hours, not sure whether to respond or to leave it unanswered. But the anger and hurt inside me were starting to twist into something else, something sharper. I was tired of the games, tired of being manipulated. But the hope, the naive hope, was still there. Maybe I wanted to hear her out, to see if there was a chance for some kind of closure. So, I called her. She answered on the second ring, her voice shaky, like she wasn't sure what kind of reception she'd get. "Hey," she said softly. "I didn't expect you to pick up. I really need to talk to you." "About what?" I asked, my voice cold. The more she spoke, the more I realized just how much I had let her make me feel small. I wanted to stay strong, to make sure I didn't fall into her manipulations again. But I could feel myself faltering. "I know I messed up," she continued, her tone soft, almost pleading. "I never meant to hurt you. You have to believe me. It was just one mistake. One mistake that I can never undo, but please don't give up on us." Her words were like poison, sweet on the surface, but underneath I could feel the bitterness. She was trying to pull me back in with her guilt, her desperate attempt to make me believe that she was just a victim of her own emotions. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she repeated, over and over, as if those words were a magic spell that would somehow erase the reality of what she had done. "You didn't mean to cheat on me? You didn't mean to lie to me?" I cut in, my voice sharp. "I'm not stupid, Lily. You knew exactly what you were doing. And now you want me to believe that all of this was just one mistake?" I know," she said quickly, her voice cracking. "I didn't want it to happen. But you don't understand how much I was struggling. You were so busy with your work, and I felt so alone, James. He made me feel seen, and I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't think you'd leave me. You're too nice, remember?" That last part hit me like a slap in the face. I froze, the words hanging in the air, twisting in my stomach. "You're too nice." It was the same line she had joked about weeks ago, and now it wasn't a joke anymore. It was the truth. She didn't value me for who I was, not for the good things I had done, not for the way I had loved her. She valued me because I was predictable, because I wouldn't fight back, because I was nice, because I would always stay. "I'm sorry you felt alone," I said, my voice breaking through the coldness. "But that's not an excuse. You chose to betray me, And now you want me to forgive you because you're sorry? Because you felt alone?" She paused, and for the first time, I heard a real sob break through her voice. "Please, please don't leave me. You don't understand. I need you. I've always needed you, and I can't do this without you." Her words were like a tug on my heart, but I didn't let them pull me in. I could feel it. This was her last attempt, her last grasp at control. She was trying to guilt-trip me, trying to make me feel like I was abandoning her, when all I had ever done was be there for her. "You've already left me." "Lily," I said, my voice steady now. "You just don't realize it yet." The call ended abruptly, and I stood there, staring at my phone as if I'd just witnessed the death of something that had once been real. The truth settled in. This wasn't love. It was manipulation. And for the first time, I wasn't the one who had to apologize. I wasn't the one who had to bend. I was done. But the pain, the lingering ache of being lied to, stayed. And it wasn't going to go away easily. I spent the next few days in a haze numb, almost detached from everything around me. It wasn't that I was fine. I wasn't. But I had reached a point where I could no longer stand the emotional roller coaster that Lily had put me through. I kept thinking back to everything, how I had trusted her, only to promise me the world, only to tear it apart when I wasn't looking. I was angry, yes, but I was also tired. Tired of the lies, tired of the guilt, tired of pretending everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. Then, out of nowhere, came the message. It was a text from one of her friends, Sophie, a girl I had always been friendly with, who I thought genuinely cared about me. The message was short, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. "I need to tell you something. Please call me when you get this. It's about Lily." I stared at the text for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing with possibilities. Was this some kind of joke? Had Sophie heard about what had happened between us? I didn't know what to expect, but my gut told me this wasn't going to be good. I called her immediately. The phone rang twice before Sophie picked up, her voice trembling on the other end. "Hey, I don't know how to say this," she began, clearly upset. "But you need to know the truth. Lily's been seeing someone else, not just James. There's more." The words hit me like a punch in the chest. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I tried to process what she was saying. "What do you mean there's more? Who else?" Sophie took a deep breath. "It's someone she met after you two broke up. She told me you guys weren't serious anymore, that you were taking a break. I didn't know what to believe at first, but she told me everything. And I can't keep lying for her." I felt like the ground had just slipped out from beneath my feet. The room spun around me, and I could barely breathe. My chest tightened. I didn't know what I had been expecting. Maybe an apology from her. Maybe an explanation, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. "You're telling me she's been seeing someone else behind my back this whole time?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but Sophie didn't hesitate. "Yeah, but there's something else too. Lily told me she was only with you because you were too nice to leave. She was never really into you the way you were into her. You were just ... comfortable, and she didn't think you'd ever figure it out." I wanted to scream, to break something. I felt like I had been gutted, like the last shred of trust I had in her had been ripped away with those words. She had used me. All that time I had thought I was building a future with someone who truly cared about me, and she had been playing me the entire time. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and confusion. "I couldn't stand it anymore," Sophie admitted. "You deserve to know. You deserve better than this. I'm sorry." I ended the call without another word. I stood there in shock, trying to make sense of what I had just learned. Part of me wanted to confront Lily right away, demand answers, but another part of me knew that I had already had enough of her lies. She had already done enough damage. I couldn't believe it. She had completely disrespected me, not just emotionally, but also by making me look like a fool in front of her friends. And I thought it was bad before. Now, it was 100 times worse. The truth had shattered the last of my hope. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. But the worst part? I didn't even know how far she was willing to go. How much more could she lie to me? How far had this betrayal really gone? I didn't know, but I was about to find out. Asterisk, I spent the next few days in a fog of anger and disbelief, replaying everything over and over in my mind. Each memory with Lily, every promise she'd made, felt like a lie now. I couldn't even look at my phone without the reminder of her betrayal staring me in the face. I'd deleted her number, blocked her on social media, but it wasn't enough to silence the thoughts running wild in my head. I kept asking myself the same question over and over. How could I have been so blind? She had used me, manipulated me, made me feel like I was her everything, only to replace me when it suited her. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was furious. Furious that I had wasted so much time loving someone who never really loved me back. And I realized in that fury that I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't walk away quietly, act like everything was fine. I needed to make sure she understood what it felt like to lose someone she had taken for granted. I needed to hurt her the way she had hurt me. Not physically, not with violence, but emotionally. In a way that would make her understand the depth of her betrayal. So, I began to plan. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. I didn't want to hear the well-meaning advice. Just let her go. She wasn't right for you. I knew they were right, but I didn't want to hear it. I wasn't done with this yet. Not until I had made sure she understood that I wasn't the naive guy she had thought she could walk all over. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. The first thing I did was reach out to a mutual friend. Tom. He was someone I had known for years, and I trusted him completely. We didn't talk often, but when we did, it felt like we were picking up right where we left off. He was the kind of friend who didn't take sides, who saw through all the drama and told things how they were. I needed him on my side for what I was about to do. Hey man, I texted him. I need your help with something. It's about Lily. It didn't take long for him to call. His voice was low, cautious. What's going on? Is everything okay? No, everything's not okay, I said. I need you to help me set up something I can't do alone. I need to make sure Lily knows what it feels like to be used. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. You sure about this? You're not going to do something crazy, right? I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of humor. It was bitter, dark. I'm not going to hurt her, Tom, but I'm done being her doormat. I'm done being the guy who she thinks will always forgive her, always be there when she comes crawling back. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm done. Tom didn't respond for a moment, but then I heard him sigh. All right, what do you need me to do? And just like that, the plan started to take shape. It wasn't anything drastic, nothing that would completely ruin her life, but it would make her realize how much she had lost. It would make her see me for who I really was. Not some backup option, not some guy she could take advantage of. It would make her feel the sting of my absence. First, I arranged for a few of our mutual friends to casually mention to her that I had been doing great since the breakup, that I had moved on, was seeing new people, and focusing on my own success. I knew it would get back to her. She always cared too much about what others thought. It would eat away at her, make her wonder if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Then came the final part, the note. I had planned it for a week. A simple but powerful gesture. I would leave her a note, nothing long, nothing dramatic, but something that would hit her in a way that would make her stop and think. It would be a farewell, something that would remind her of all the things she had thrown away, all the things she had taken for granted. And when I wrote it, I made sure it wasn't just a goodbye. It was a reminder that no matter how hard she tried to justify what she did, she couldn't erase what she had lost. By the time the note was ready, I felt a strange sense of calm. I wasn't doing this out of revenge alone anymore. I was doing this for me. I was doing this to finally close the door on everything she had put me through. It was time to let go. But before I did, I needed her to feel the weight of my absence. The plan was set. I didn't know how she would react, but I knew one thing for sure. She would never forget this. She would never forget me. The days leading up to the note felt like a blur. I was consumed with anger, sure, but also something else. Emptiness. Despite everything she had done, There was a hollow space inside me, a gnawing ache that I couldn't shake. I told myself it was because I had been betrayed not just by Lily, but by my own judgment. How could I have been so blind? How could I have let her manipulate me for so long without even realizing it? And yet, as much as I tried to move forward with my plan, I couldn't stop thinking about the way she had made me feel at my lowest. The late-night conversations where she'd comfort me, making me feel like I was the only one in the world who mattered. How could I have been so naive to believe it all? She had used my own kindness, my own loyalty against me. The night before I was going to drop off the note, I found myself standing in my apartment, staring at my phone, feeling like I was about to fall apart. I hadn't heard from her in a while. No texts, no calls. I thought I was fine with that I had closed that chapter. But there was something about the silence, something that made me feel invisible. I knew that part of me was still holding on. Maybe I was hoping she would reach out and apologize, admit what she had done, or maybe I was just waiting for some closure. But that's when I realized Dive wasn't waiting for closure from her. I was waiting for me to close the door on her, to make peace with the fact that the relationship we had was nothing but an illusion. I took a deep breath and picked up the phone. I scrolled through our old conversations, her sweet messages, the photos we'd taken on trips together, the plans we had made. It was like looking at a life that belonged to someone else, someone who didn't exist anymore. A life built on lies, on moments that had no meaning. I tapped out a message to her. I hope you're happy with James. You've made your choice, but I won't be a part of your lies anymore. I didn't send it. Instead, I deleted everything. Every message, every photo. The whole history of us wiped away with a few taps of the screen. I watched the screen go blank, feeling like I had just erased a part of myself that I didn't know if I could ever get back. But there was no other choice. I couldn't keep living in the past. I had to let go. I sat there, staring at my phone, my hands trembling. It was the first time in days that I allowed myself to truly feel the weight of everything, the betrayal, the hurt, the pain. And as much as I wanted to lash out to make her feel the way I did, I realized something. I didn't need to hurt her. She had already done enough damage on her own, but I had done something for me. Something that felt like the first real step toward freedom. I stood up and walked to the table where I had written the note. My handwriting looked strange to me, as if it didn't belong to the person I had become. I folded it carefully as though I was sealing away the last remnants of a life that wasn't mine anymore. I walked to the door, the cold air outside hitting my face like a slap, and I made my way to her apartment. When I stood outside her door, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just numbness. I slid the note under her door without a word, without even glancing back at it. The feeling of leaving that note behind felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest, but also like a final chapter had been written. There was no going back. But as I turned to leave, a single thought kept repeating itself in my mind. I'm done, and I'm never looking back. I didn't wait for her to come after me. I didn't need her to beg for forgiveness. This was for me. And in that moment, I knew that I was finally free. The days following the note were the quietest I had felt in a long time. For the first time in what felt like years, there were no texts from Lily. No calls. No desperate attempts to explain herself. I had made my decision, and I knew deep down that there was nothing more to say. But as the days passed, a strange feeling crept over me. It wasn't regret, exactly. It wasn't doubt either. It was something I hadn't anticipated. Emptiness. I had been so consumed with anger and betrayal that I had forgotten what it would feel like to let go completely. It wasn't just about Lily anymore. It was about me too. Letting go of her was like ripping away a part of myself that I didn't even know I had been holding on to. And then, for days after I left the note, I got a call. I saw her name flash across the screen, and for a moment, I froze. It was like my heart stopped beating for a second. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let it go to voicemail like I had done so many times before. But another part of me, the part that had spent so long trying to understand her, wanted to hear what she had to say. So, against my better judgment, I answered, "Hello?" My voice was rough, still raw from everything that had happened. There was silence on the other end for a long moment, and then I heard her shaky voice. "It's me," Lily said softly, almost as if she was afraid to speak too loudly. "We need to talk." I closed my eyes, the weight of the situation crashing down on me again. My anger had cooled, but I could still feel the sting of her betrayal, the way she had made me feel like I wasn't enough. I had spent days preparing for this moment, but now that it was here, I didn't know what to expect. "What do you want, Lily?" I asked, my tone guarded, a little more detached than I intended. "I've been thinking about everything." "About what I did," she said quickly. "And I realize how much I hurt you. I never meant for things to get this bad. I know I messed up. I don't know what I was thinking, but I want to make it right." Her words were familiar, but they didn't have the same weight they once did. I had heard this before: the apologies, the promises, the "I never meant to hurt you" speeches. They were just words. Words that didn't change anything. "I don't think you can make it right, Lily," I said, the harshness in my voice more obvious now. "You had your chance, and you threw it away." "I know I did. And I'm sorry," she replied, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I've been a terrible person, and I don't know how to fix it, but I swear I never wanted to hurt you. I don't want to lose you." I paused, looking out the window at the rain starting to pour. Her words felt hollow now. I had spent so long hoping for an explanation, for some sense of closure, but in this moment I realized the truth. There was nothing left to fix. She had already broken us beyond repair. "You didn't lose me, Lily," I said quietly, the words heavier than I intended. "You never had me to begin with." There was silence on the other end of the line, a long, unbearable silence that felt like it stretched on forever. I could feel the tension, the weight of everything that had been said and left unsaid. "I need to go," I finally said, my throat tight. "I hope you figure out what you need to do, but I'm done here." Before she could say another word, I ended the call. It felt final. Final in a way that I couldn't quite explain, but I knew it was the right choice. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt either. I had reached a place where I simply didn't care about her anymore. I wasn't going to beg for her affection. I wasn't going to waste any more of my time trying to fix what was broken. I stood there for a long time, looking at my phone. I had expected this moment to feel like some grand resolution, but it didn't. It just felt ... empty, and that was okay. It wasn't a bad kind of emptiness, just a quiet, peaceful kind of nothing. As I walked away from the window and back into my apartment, I finally understood. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't saying goodbye. It's accepting that they were never really yours to begin with. I was free, and that was all that mattered now. The next few weeks were a blur. I focused on keeping busy, on rebuilding parts of my life that I had neglected while I was wrapped up in the mess of my relationship with Lily. It wasn't just the heartbreak or the betrayal that had left me reeling. It was the realization that I had spent so much time chasing something that never truly existed. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and I wasn't the person I thought I was in her eyes. I had lost myself in her, in the idea of us, and now I had to find my way back. At first, the silence from her was a relief. No more texts, no more calls. It was like a weight had been lifted off my chest, and I could finally breathe again. But as the days turned into weeks, something strange began to happen. The pain that had been so sharp, so intense, began to dull. The memories of her started to fade into the background, like pictures left out in the sun. They were still there, but they weren't as vivid anymore. And yet, despite this growing sense of peace, there was a part of me that felt unsettled. Not because I wanted her back, God no, but because I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something I needed to do. Something that had been left unsaid, unfinished. I had ended things with Lily, yes, but I hadn't truly confronted the emotional toll the relationship had taken on me. I hadn't fully let go. I was sitting at a cafe one afternoon, scrolling through some old messages from friends, when I saw her name flash across the screen. I froze. It wasn't a call. Not this time. It was a message. "Can we meet up? I really need to talk." For a moment I didn't know what to do. I had moved on. I wasn't interested in hearing her apologies again. But there was something about that message, something in the words she used, "I really need to talk," that made me hesitate. I didn't know her anything, but I wasn't sure if I could completely move on until I heard what she had to say. Maybe this would be the final piece I needed to close this chapter for good. I agreed to meet her, just to get it over with, to hear what she had to say so I could finally put her and everything we had been through behind me. We met at the same park, where we had shared our first date, the one place that used to bring back all the good memories. Now, it felt like a place I could never walk through without the ghosts of our past haunting me. I saw her standing there when I arrived, her eyes scanning the crowd nervously, like she wasn't sure if she should even be there. When she saw me, she straightened up, her face softening for a second before that same mask of uncertainty and regret slipped back into place. She was still beautiful, still the same girl I had once fallen for. But it didn't matter anymore. Not really. I walked up to her, my heart beating in my chest. Not because I still cared for her, but because this was the last piece of the puzzle. This was the closure I needed to walk away from it all. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. "What's this about?" She took a deep breath before speaking, her words slow and deliberate. "I don't know how to say this, but I've been thinking about everything. About what I did to you, and I can't keep pretending it was okay. I've hurt you more than I'll ever be able to make up for, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." I listened, my arms crossed, feeling almost detached from it all. This wasn't the first time she'd said something like this, but this time it felt different. There was no desperation in her voice, no manipulation, just raw regret. And for a second, I saw the girl I had once loved, the girl who was so lost, so insecure that she couldn't even recognize the love she had right in front of her. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she continued. "I just need you to know that I've learned from this, and I've been working on myself. I can't change what happened between us, but I wanted to tell you. I'm really sorry for everything." Her words hung in the air for a moment, and I felt the weight of them pressing down on me. For a split second, I almost wanted to say something, anything, to make it feel like the apology mattered. But then I remembered all the lies, all the broken promises, and I realized that words didn't matter anymore. Actions were what counted. I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. "I appreciate the apology, Lily," I said quietly, "but I'm done. I've moved on, and I'm not looking back." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand. I just needed you to hear me say it." And then she turned and walked away. No more words, no more explanations, just the sound of her footsteps fading into the distance. I stood there for a long time, letting the quiet settle over me. The pain that had been so overwhelming, so suffocating, was finally gone. I didn't need her apology to move on. I didn't need her approval or her regrets. I had healed. I had found peace in myself, and as I walked away from the park, I finally realized I had closed the door. And this time, it stayed closed. It had been nearly 2 months since that final conversation with Lily. Life was moving forward. And so was I. I had focused on rebuilding my routines, my friendships, and even started pursuing hobbies that had been pushed aside while I was tangled in the mess of that relationship. I was beginning to feel like myself again, like I had been set free from a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. But just as I thought I was fully over everything, life threw me a curveball. It happened on a random Thursday afternoon. I had just finished a meeting at work and was heading out for coffee when I received a text. At first I didn't recognize the number, but then the message itself stopped me in my tracks. "Hey, it's Sophie. I need to tell you something. Can you meet me? It's important." My stomach dropped. Sophie, I hadn't heard from her since that phone call weeks ago when she'd confessed everything about Lily and James. Part of me wanted to ignore it. After everything I had gone through, I didn't owe anyone any explanations, especially not Sophie. But there was a nagging feeling deep inside that made me hesitate. What could she possibly need to tell me? What more could I possibly learn after all the lies and the mess? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. Asterisk, We met at a small park nearby. The same one I had gone to with Lily, the one I had thought I would never visit again. Sophie was sitting on a bench looking unusually nervous. She wasn't the type to get worked up, so seeing her this way immediately put me on edge. I walked up to her, my eyes narrowing slightly. "What's this about, Sophie?" She glanced up at me, her face a mixture of concern and something else, something I couldn't quite place. She motioned for me to sit next to her, but I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be this close to her, to anyone connected to Lily, but curiosity won out, and I sat down. "I don't know how to say this," she began, her voice quiet, almost apologetic. "But there's something I need you to know. Something I should have told you a while ago." My heart rate picked up, and I instinctively braced myself for whatever it was. Maybe it was another confession, another layer to the web of lies I'd already uncovered. But when Sophie finally spoke, her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Lily wasn't the only one who was seeing someone else while you were together," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's more, and I can't believe I'm telling you this, but I think you deserve to know." I stared at her, not sure if I was hearing her correctly. "What are you talking about?" My voice was steady, but inside, I felt a rising wave of dread. I'd already been betrayed enough. How much more could I take? Sophie shifted uncomfortably on the bench. "I found out after you two broke up. It wasn't just James. There was someone else. Someone she's been seeing. For a while. It's not what you think, though." I blinked, trying to wrap my mind around what she was saying. Who else was she seeing? Sophie hesitated before taking a deep breath. "It's her ex Gavin, the one she told you she was over. The one who she said had been in the past. He's not in the past. Not at all. She was seeing him while she was with you." My blood ran cold. Gavin. I remembered him. He was the guy she'd mentioned once or twice, but always in passing. The guy who didn't matter anymore. The guy who was supposedly out of the picture. The guy she had assured me she'd cut ties with. But here was Sophie, telling me that Lily had been seeing him while we were still together. And what was worse? She had never mentioned it. Not once. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophie shook her head. "I don't know exactly. But it was at least 6 months. I don't think she ever really stopped seeing him. It was always something she kept hidden, like she was just waiting for the right time to tell you. But she never did." I felt the world tilt beneath me, as if the ground I had just started to rebuild on was crumbling beneath my feet again. I couldn't breathe. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? I wanted to scream, to shout, to feel something other than numbness. But instead, I just sat there, staring ahead, trying to process everything Sophie had just laid out for me. I had thought the worst was over. I had thought I knew the full extent of Lily's betrayal. But this was a whole new level. For a moment, there was nothing but silence between us. Then, I finally spoke, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside me. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked the question, heavy in the air. Sophie looked down at her hands, wringing them together nervously. "Because I couldn't stand knowing that you were still in the dark. I know I should have said something sooner, but I thought maybe it wasn't my place. But after seeing you move on, after seeing how much you've healed, ... I realize you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know everything." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to thank her, to thank Sophie for finally coming clean. But another part of me just wanted to walk away. I had had enough. Enough of the lies. Enough of the betrayal. I wasn't sure how much more of this I could handle, but I was also at a crossroads. I had to decide what to do with this new information. Did I confront Lily again? Did I let her know that I now knew the full story? The truth was, I didn't need to. I had already moved on. This new revelation, no matter how shocking, was just another reminder that I had made the right decision in walking away. I stood up, the finality of it hitting me like a wave. "Thanks for telling me, Sophie," I said, my voice calm but firm. "But I'm done. I don't need any more of this. I've already said everything I needed to say." With that, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Not this time. I was free. And I wasn't going to let the past drag me under again. It was over. Completely. And I was finally at peace. The weeks that followed felt like a quiet rebirth. For the first time in years, I didn't feel weighed down by the past. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, all of it started to fade into the distance. Like a distant storm that had finally passed. I was finally living for myself, and that freedom felt exhilarating. It wasn't about being bitter or angry anymore. It was about embracing who I was, and who I had become in the process of walking away from everything that had tried to break me. I threw myself into work, into passions I had pushed aside while I was tangled up in Lily's world. I reconnected with friends who had been waiting for me to find my way back. I started running again, something I hadn't done in ages. Every morning, as I laced up my shoes and hit the pavement, it felt like I was running towards something new, towards a life I could shape, a life that was mine and mine alone. And then, one evening, as I was walking out of a cafe with a friend, I saw her. Lily. It wasn't planned. I didn't know she would be there, didn't even expect to run into her. But there she was, standing across the street, looking just as she always had, beautiful, composed, but with a look of uncertainty in her eyes as she spotted me. For a moment, I froze. It was like time slowed down, and everything in me wanted to rewind, to go back to that place where I was consumed by the pain, where I still craved closure, still longed for some kind of emotional justice. But then I remembered, I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't the one she had left behind. I stood there, taken in the moment, feeling the calm that had settled over me in the weeks since we'd last spoken. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just ... done, and that was the most powerful feeling of all. Lily hesitated for a moment, then took a few steps toward me. Her eyes were searching, almost like she was waiting for some kind of reaction from me. Some sign that I still cared, or that I'd be the same guy who had once dropped everything for her. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I had learned so much from everything I'd been through. I had learned how to walk away with my head held high, even if it meant leaving the past behind. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, almost tentative. "I've been meaning to talk to you." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in what felt like forever. I saw the girl who had betrayed me, the girl who had played with my heart, the girl who hadn't been able to see me for who I really was. But I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel resentment. I just felt indifferent. "You don't need to talk to me, Lily," I said, my voice steady, my tone calm. "Everything I needed to hear from you, I've already heard. And everything I needed to learn from you, I've already learned." She opened her mouth, as though to say something, but the words didn't come. I wasn't sure if she was looking for an apology, an explanation, or something else entirely. But I wasn't going to offer her any of it. She had already taken too much from me. I wasn't going to give her any more of my time, my energy, or my emotions. "I think you should go," I added, my voice firm, but not unkind. "I've moved on, and I hope you can too." I turned to leave, not because I was running from her, but because I was finally walking toward something better, toward a future I could control, toward the life I was going to build on my own terms. As I walked away, I felt the lightness I hadn't felt in years. I had made peace with everything that had happened. I didn't need her forgiveness, and I didn't need her approval. I had learned to forgive myself for trusting the wrong person, for allowing myself to stay in a relationship that never really served me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was free, and that was enough. It was more than enough.